Hello board game brothers and sisters, I'm Adam Singer and welcome to another episode where I'll be letting you know of all the board games launching on Kickstarter and GameFound over the next week. And before we get started, I do just want to take a moment to celebrate the globally recognized holiday of Canada Day. And yes, I am spending my Canada Day filming this video. It's a very Canadian thing to do. We all film YouTube videos on Canada Day. But before we get into the campaigns, I do like to cover some new discoveries and announcements that I just found out about over the past week. I don't really have too much to cover, but I do have a few things I want to mention. First off, I did film last week's video a little bit early, so I missed a couple bigger campaigns that you probably want to know about. The first one is that there is a Button Shy reprint campaign on Kickstarter right now, and this one's actually offering a whole selection of their previously released games. So if there's any games or campaigns that they launched previously that you missed out on, this is a great opportunity to get a bundle of them all at once. Also, Queen Games just launched a campaign for Helsinki and Copenhagen, and these are both polyomino tile-laying games, with Copenhagen actually being previously released, but this one's going to be offering a deluxified version. And the last bit of news, which isn't really news, but I decided not to back Marvel Zombies in the end. I was humming and hawing over getting the Resistance Pledge or the Galactus Pledge, and I do think this looks like the most fun Zombicide for my taste so far, but I've been buying and selling Zombicides too many times now, and I'm sure there's going to still be a Pirate Zombicide coming out, probably a wilderness or survival themed one, and probably any other theme that you can possibly think of. And once you consider shipping and converting this over to Canadian dollars, the price of this is just getting so ridiculous that it's just getting to a point now where I'm not so sure that I could sell this at the same price that I'm purchasing it for. I just want to own one Zombicide in the end, so I guess I'm just going to keep the one that I have for now and wait and see which Zombicides are going to be coming out in the future, and probably just buy whatever one I want secondhand and just save myself the hassle of buying and selling these constantly every time a more exciting one ends up coming out. And the last thing I want to mention is that if you like these videos and you like knowing which campaigns are going to be coming up, definitely go ahead and subscribe to Board Game Co, because he puts out a video at the end of each month going over the next month and letting you know of all the campaigns that we know about so far. He also puts out a ton of other really helpful videos and goes into detailed reviews and previews on different campaigns, often multiple videos for a single campaign, giving you updates as the campaign progresses. So there's just a ton of really excellent info here, and Alex and I do update each other when we do hear of new campaigns. And if you watched his July video, I just have one more to add to it because we found out about this one after he had already filmed it. But Euthia is going to be relaunching over on Kickstarter. This is one that was previously on GameFound, but they canceled it to make some tweaks and improvements. And if you were interested in this one, I think you'll really want to check it out, because this one was previously being published by Dia Games, but now they're going to be working in partnership with Steamforged Games as well. And Steamforged has launched a lot of very popular campaigns, so if you are a fan of their work, you'll definitely want to check this one out. And with all that out of the way, let's check out the campaigns. And the first campaign we have launches on July 4th, and this one's called FlickFleet Xeno Wars. And this plays 2 to 4 players and takes about 20 to 120 minutes to play, and this is a standalone expansion to the game FlickFleet that adds 2 new alien races, and you can combine this with the original game in order to play with up to 4 players. And if you're not familiar with how FlickFleet plays, this is a game where you're going to be choosing a scenario, and these can be asymmetric scenarios where one player might have a different set of ships than the other, or even start with different ships out on the board while the other might have to actually deploy theirs. But players are going to be essentially flicking their ships into position and then flicking dice off of their ships in order to damage the systems of their opponent's fleet. All the ships are quite a lot different from each other, and they all have some different actions that they can provide, and they all have some different specialties, with some ships even being able to carry other ships. Each of these ships is going to come accompanied with a board with a number of discs that go on each of the sections of your ship, and the discs also represent the health in that area. As you take damage on the different areas of your ships, you're going to remove those discs, and then if all the discs are depleted, you can no longer use that action. And players are going to be able to perform up to 2 actions on their turn, and like I said, there's a lot of different actions that you can perform depending on the ships that you have, but the main 2 actions are moving and attacking. And in order to move, you're going to be flicking your ship in a direction out on the board, and in order to attack, you're going to be flicking dice from your ship and trying to hit other ships. In order for a hit to be successful, you have to hit the ship and then have your die not go off the board. But you have to be careful here because you can also hit your own ships. But all is not lost if you do take damage, because some of the ships do have engineering, which you can perform in order to add more discs to the other areas of your ship, essentially healing those areas. And in order to win the game, players are going to be trying to destroy all their opponent's fleets. And like I said, this expansion is going to be adding 2 new alien fleets that players can play as, and each is going to contain different drones, bombers, and capital ships, as well as a range of scenarios and battles for players to explore. And the first fleet is the Storm Fleet, and this is a high-tech alien species with fast, highly maneuverable ships and powerful weapons. The only downside with this one is that their ships are very fragile once you get their shields down. And the other fleet is known as the Hive, and this is an organic fleet of ships that have no shields at all, but they do heal rapidly, and they also spit out a constant stream of parasites that can take over opponent ships from the inside. This is a really fun dexterity game, and if this one does interest you, you can find links to this and all the other campaigns in the description below. And launched on July 5th, we have another really fun 2-player game, and this one is Star Realms Rise of the Empire. And this is a standalone prequel to the game Star Realms, which is a really popular deck building game. And this is actually one of my favorite deck building games. It's super accessible, so almost anyone can play it, but then it also has enough layers to it that I think adds enough fun and strategy, and I would much rather play this than Dominion any day. And this new version doesn't replace the original, it's actually going to be introducing some different fleets into the game. But something that's really interesting about this is that after you finish the campaign, your cards can be combined with the original game. And if you haven't played any of the Star Realms released previously, it's a spaceship combat head-to-head deck builder. And in this game, you win by being the first to reduce your opponent from 50 authority down to 0. Players are going to start the game with an identical hand of starting cards, and then there's going to be a shared market out in the middle of the board that players will be able to purchase new cards from as the game goes on. On a turn, players are going to draw 5 cards into their hand, and these are going to have different attack and trade values, and you can spend those in order to attack the other player or to buy new cards from the shared market. There's also bases that you can acquire throughout the game, and if you put these into play, they will grant you a special ability as long as they are in play. But these can be destroyed, but your opponent has to direct their attack towards your base, and that's kind of nice because it means that they're not attacking you. And this new content is going to be offering a 12-game scenario campaign where each player is going to be able to alter the different cards in the shared market deck, and players will also be tracking their wins and losses throughout the entirety of the campaign. Anything about this is that you can play the campaign either competitively or cooperatively, and there's going to be 3 brand new factions added into the game: the Consortium, the Scavengers, and the Kingdom. And the different sides will be competing to achieve various objectives, earning them campaign victory points, and unlocking secrets of the world around them. Definitely a solid game here that can have you playing multiple games in a single night, so I don't think the 12 scenario campaign is too overwhelming. And I'm actually really interested to see if they're going to be adding some bonus campaigns. And if you're interested to know that as well, definitely check out the campaign link in the description below where you can click to get notified. And the next campaign we have launches on July 5th, and this one's called Tectonia, and this plays 3 to 5 players and takes about 3 to 4 hours to play. And this is an area control game where players are chieftains of one of 4 opposing tribes, and players are trying to achieve the most objectives before a certain number of rounds. And the player that does that will win the game. And a really interesting aspect of this game is the way that the board works. The main board is actually just completely covered in water. Then the board's going to get filled up with terrain tiles. Then the terrain can actually go multi-level, changing from grass to rock. Another really interesting layer on top of this is that at the start of each round, a number of terraform cards are going to get drawn, and this is going to indicate which of the tiles are going to be moving up or down a level. And then you put a token on those tiles indicating that, and then that effect is going to happen at the end of the round. But then during the round, players are going to be taking turns performing actions, and each player is going to have 7 action cards in their hand, and this is going to allow them to do different things like build buildings on their player board, which is going to help them recruit different types of units which they can deploy out onto the main board, which is one of your actions to recruit and deploy those units. Or instead, you can choose to gain resources from the spaces that you occupy, move your units and attack areas adjacent to them, gain or upgrade your battle cards, or even terraform the board yourself. And battles are going to be resolved in this game using both dice and cards, where you're going to be rolling battle dice depending on the units that you have involved, and then you're going to be adding different battle cards to modify the outcome. And something I really like about the way that the dice work in this game is that they don't just issue hits or misses, but they can also do different things like allow some of your units to retreat if you know that you're going to lose the battle, or also call in reinforcements from other areas of the board to add more combat power to your side. And turns will go really quick because each player is just taking one action on their turn, but then the round's going to end as soon as each player has performed 4 out of their 7 possible actions. And at that point the round ends, and then the board's going to terraform as dictated by the tokens that were put out at the start of the round, and rounds continue like this until the end of the game, and the player that is able to complete the most objectives before the final round wins the game. And launching on July 5th, we have 2 expansions for Mini Express, and this is going to be Map Pack 1 and Map Pack 2. And I'll get into what each of these packs are going to offer, but overall they're going to be offering some new maps for players to play on. Each of the maps offering some different mechanisms, but then the campaign's also going to be offering deluxe upgrades for the game as a whole. And if you haven't played Mini Express before, it's a strategic railroad game where players are playing as different investors, investing into 4 different railroads. And this is a game that plays very similar to Mini Rails if you've ever played that, where on your turn, each player is going to be taking one of 2 actions, either gaining a stock in a company or laying track to expand a company's railroad. But that's pretty much where the similarities between the 2 games end. But the reason that you want to lay down track is so that you can connect to new cities, because each of the cities is going to be color coded to one of the railways. But no matter which railway that you connect to it, you're going to gain influence in the railway matching the color of the city. And you're going to want to gain influence to score victory points at the end of the game, but you can also spend influence in order to perform the other action, which is taking a stock. And the way that you do that is that you're going to decrease your influence in that railway equal to the number of trains currently in that company's reservoir. And the game just continues like this, with each player taking an action on their turn, and the game's going to end as soon as 2 railways, trains, or stocks are completely depleted. And players are going to score points by multiplying the number of shares that they hold in a railway by a points multiplier that is dictated by the amount of influence that they hold in that railway relative to the other players. And whoever has the most points wins the game. And the 2 expansions are going to be adding a Great Britain map where you're going to be able to construct the London Underground. And this is also going to offer different ferries scattered around the island, allowing players to jump from one end of the board to the other, also allowing connections to other countries where you can gain a wild influence that can be for any of the railways. And then there's the Taiwan map where players will be working with the Japanese government, tunneling through mountains and creating blank cities that are a sort of wild city that can gain you influence in any of the railways. The map also allows players to collaborate for powerful rewards, but also comes with the risk of serious consequences. And then there's the Japan map where players will be building new lines to connect the 6 different Japanese railway companies. And this one's going to be offering a very large map covering all of Japan, and players will be able to build ferries, bridges, and underwater tunnels in order to connect the 4 islands. And finally, there's the Spain map, which is going to have players recreate the journey from the last steam locomotive all the way to the AVE, which is the longest high-speed rail network in Europe. And along the way, players will be collecting demand tiles to trade for bonuses. And if this sounds like one that you're interested in, you'll definitely want to check out their campaign page before the campaign launches. Head over to this link on their website and then sign up to make sure that you get this free metal token added to your pledge. Also launching on July 5th, we have Royal Hospital, and this plays 2 to 4 players and takes about 90 to 180 minutes to play. And this is an engine building game where each player is going to be managing their own hospital, trying to be the most successful in order to prove themselves as the most ideal candidate to run the Royal Hospital, which is the most prestigious and impressive hospital in the entire world. And in this game, players are going to be managing a hand of cards, and these cards are going to allow you to do a variety of different actions, but players will also be managing money as well as several resources in the different categories of science, diagnostics, healing, doctors, and staff. And at the start of each game, players are going to get one of each resource as well as some money and a starting ability, and then players are going to draft a hand of cards. And then the game is going to play over a series of rounds, taking turns between each player, and on your turn you're going to gain a card as well as a patient. And there's going to be 2 different types of patients in the game. There's the critical and the non-critical patients, and the difference between them is that the critical ones, their condition is known, and you only have 1 round in order to try and treat them. Whereas the non-critical patients will allow more time to try and treat them, but you first have to diagnose them before you know exactly what their ailment is. And on your turn, you can also sell as many cards as you like, gaining 3 coins for each card, and then you can perform an action, and your action can be either to play one of your cards, play an ability, which will allow you to move up one of the insurance tracks in the top right hand of the board, gaining any of the bonuses listed along the way. Or instead, you can spend resources to purchase another card from the shared market, or if there's nothing you wish to do, you can always pass. And playing a card in this game plays very similar to the way playing cards works in Terraforming Mars, where you're going to have to pay a cost in order to put it into your tableau, and that might be a cost in money or resources or both. And then some of the cards might have some instant benefits, where others might have actions that you can do each round, and players will be looking out for different cards that they can chain together and create different combos. Some of these cards can also improve your production of different resources at the start of each round, and others might allow you to move your ambulance token around the circular portion of the board. And whenever you do this, you're going to gain a resource for any of the spaces that you cross over. And some of the cards can allow you to gain victory points in different ways. It can either increase your prestige, which allows you to gain victory points every single round, or they can allow you to gain objective cards, which will allow you to gain endgame victory points if you're able to complete that objective, or some of the cards might just grant you victory points instantly. And there's quite a lot of different cards, and they could grant you just one of these benefits or combine multiple of them together in a single card. The player who's earned the most victory points at the end of the game wins the game. Also launched on July 5th, we have a campaign for Dice Throne, and this plays 2 to 6 players and takes about 20 to 40 minutes to play, and this campaign is going to be known as Dice Throne Christmas in July. And the reason that they're calling it this is because they aren't divulging any information about this at all. I don't know anything about this. Nobody knows anything about it other than there's going to be a campaign. And the only reason that I know this is a Kickstarter campaign is because on their teaser video, they say Kickstarter at the end of it. And just take a minute to soak in that we don't know anything about this campaign. And I'm about to tell you that this is our Discord pick of the week. I don't make the rules here. I just write them down and enforce them. But it is something to be excited about if you are a fan of Dice Throne, so I'm not surprised that this one is our Discord pick of the week, and I assume there's going to be new content. I assume you'll be able to get the game, and I'm assuming there's going to be deluxeified components. But since I don't know exactly what's going to be in this campaign, I'll just go ahead and play you my previous coverage on Marvel Dice Throne, which explains how the whole game plays. And I promised that I tried to look for as much information on this one as possible, but they didn't even have a preview page, which is kind of strange because there's no way for anyone to sign up to get notified of this. So if you are interested in this campaign, you're just going to have to go check it out for yourself when it launches, because I don't have any links to the campaign page, and they don't have any sign up link on their website either. If there's anyone from Roxley watching this and you have a link to the page that you're willing to share or some way for us to get notified, please leave a link to that in the description below, and I'll keep an eye out for that and put it as the pinned comment if that actually happens. And just like with every other Dice Throne, the rules for this one is going to be the same, and you're going to be able to choose a hero from a variety of heroes that each have their own asymmetrical hero board and leaflet, which outlines their abilities and their ultimate attacks. And for each character, players will also get a health tracker, a combat points tracker, a deck of cards, and 5 dice. And on a player's turn, they'll draw 1 card from their deck, and then they'll also gain 1 combat point. And combat points are kind of like a currency that allow you to play certain cards throughout the game. And the active player can play as many actions as they want in any order, and there's 3 actions that a player can perform. The first one is to discard any of their cards in order to gain some combat points, or they can pay the cost to play a hero upgrade card that they currently have in their hand. And the way that those work is that each upgrade is going to match an ability on your player board, and if you pay the cost for that upgrade, then you're going to replace that ability on your player board by putting your new card on top of it. So these upgrades will augment the abilities that you already have. And the third action is that you can play any amount of action cards, and to do that you just pay the cost and then perform the action. And then you're going to roll your 5 dice, and you can re-roll any amount of your dice up to 2 times. And then you can play any one of your offensive abilities. But each of these abilities also have requirements, and in order to play any of these abilities, you would have had to roll the appropriate dice in order to fulfill that requirement. So this might mean that you need certain icons or a certain sequence of numbers. If you're just playing a 2-player game, then you're just simply attacking your opponent player, but if there's any more than 2 players, then you're going to roll a die to determine your target. Some dice rolls dictate the player that you have to attack, while other dice rolls might give the option up to the players. This different colored ability in the bottom right is actually your defense ability, and if you're ever attacked, you can try and defend against that attack. Although some attacks can't be defended against, and you're also going to have to roll your dice in order to fulfill the requirements of that ability. Once you've completed your attack, you can perform perform any of those 3 actions I mentioned before as much as you like once again, and this is going to allow you to brace yourself for the next player's turns. And launching on July 6th, we have Bagh Chal, and this plays 2 players and takes about 20 minutes to play, and this is an abstract strategy game that originated in Nepal. And something that makes this abstract strategy game really interesting is that it's actually asymmetric. So one player is going to be playing as 4 tigers that start out on the board, and then the other player is going to get 20 goats that they're going to be placing out on the board. And there's a lot of great campaigns that are launching this week, but I think you should definitely check this one out because there is something about this one that makes it a little bit special. And that reason is that this campaign is just trying to raise awareness for this game and get it in more people's hands and allow more people to experience the fun that it offers. And I know that some of you might be thinking to yourself that that sounds a little gimmicky, but let me back that up by telling you that this is also a campaign that you can pay whatever you want. So you can pledge whatever you want to get yourself a copy of this game. And if you're a person that travels or goes camping or moves around a lot, this is definitely a campaign that you'll want to check out because the game is very travel sized. This is a pocket sized game in the literal sense. A lot of games say that they're pocket sized, but then you can't actually fit them in your pocket. This one you can actually fit in your pocket. It has a cloth bag as well as a double-sided cloth board, giving you 2 different options of play, and then each of the tokens will all fit in that bag. And the tokens are actually screen printed on both sides as well, and I really like the simplistic artwork that they went with on the tokens, and I think that the board looks really nice as well. I think they did a really great job pulling this all together, and because it's so small, it's going to be very affordable to ship as well. So this is going to be offered at a very accessible price point, which is exactly what you want if you're trying to create awareness. And I really love seeing honest campaigns like this with a very accessible price point, so for that reason, this one is my pick of the week. And the game's really easy to teach and play as well. Like I said, one player is going to be starting with 4 tigers that are going to be put out on the board at the start of the game. Then the other player is going to be playing with 20 goats that they're going to be putting out onto the board on each of their turns. And the game starts out like that, with the goat player being able to put a goat anywhere on the board on their turn, and then the tiger player can move one of their tigers. Once the goat players put all their goats out on the board on their turn, instead of placing a goat, they'll just be able to move one of their goats 1 space, just like the tiger player can move one of their tigers 1 space. But a tiger can capture a goat by jumping over it, just like you would in checkers. So if there's an empty space on the other side of an adjacent goat, then the tiger player can jump to that space, capturing that goat. And if the tiger player is able to capture 5 goats, then they win the game. But the goats are going to win a little bit differently. The goats are trying to trap the tigers so that they're not able to make any movements or capture any goats. And if the goats are able to position themselves in order to do that, then the goat player wins the game. So if you're interested in a pocket-sized asymmetric checkers-like game that has some beautiful artwork and allows you to pay whatever you want in order to support the campaign, while also learning a little bit about a game that is native to another country, this is definitely a campaign that's worth following. And I'd really like to see the number of followers here get up as high as possible because I really love what the team is doing here with this campaign. So if you think you'll like the game, or if you just want to support their efforts here, it's free to click that notify me button, and then it costs whatever you want it to cost if you do decide to pledge in the end. That's a pretty awesome deal. And launching on July 8th, we have Good Night, Goodbye, and this plays 3 to 5 players and takes about 10 to 20 minutes to play. And this is a competitive game of bluffing where players play 1 of 3 cards in order to score points. And to win, you want to be the first player to score 10 points. And in this game, players are each going to get 3 types of cards: a night card, a win card, and a sea card. Then players are going to decide which player goes first. Then that player is going to choose a card and put it face down and then declare what type of card it is. But they don't have to tell the truth. Players will then take turns doing the exact same thing, choosing a card from their hand to put face down, and then declaring what type of card it is, but then possibly also be lying. Once all the players have placed a card, you're going to reveal all the cards, and then players are going to score points depending on the different sets that they're able to create, since each of the cards will score in a different way depending on what other cards are revealed. And this one sounds really simple, but it's also very intriguing because it sounds like a very different take on the game Cockroach Poker. So if you're a fan of that game, I think you'll definitely want to check this one out. And launching on July 9th, we have Heist Masterminds, and this is a competitive game where players are going to be trying to complete different heists of different difficulties, and the different heists are going to have different icons that players are going to have to match up with cards in their hand in order to complete. Each heist also offers a reward in the form of resources, victory points, or both, and they can vary from heist to heist. They can also specify a number of complications, which will add complication cards to that heist. These cards could be placed face up or face down, but they essentially make the heist more difficult because they're going to have additional icons that players will have to fulfill, with some of those icons potentially being hidden. Each heist also comes with a number of time tokens, and when all those tokens are lost, losing one at the end of each round, that heist is no longer accessible to any of the players and its opportunity has expired. And on a turn, players have a few options. They can either gather more resources, hire crew, or buy specialized gear cards, which will grant them more icons that they can use to complete heists, or they can attempt a heist. If you successfully complete the heist, then you'll gain the resources and prestige associated with it, but if you fail, you'll gain the attention of the authorities in the form of heat, and if you get too much heat, you're going to start getting your crew members arrested. But players will be racing to complete the right heists in order to steal the right items that will allow them to win the game. And those are all the campaigns I have for you this week, but don't leave yet because we have a couple giveaways to announce, and the first one is for Umbrella Academy, the board game. And this is a game where players are playing as different superheroes, and you're going to mix and match different villains to make each game a little bit different, but each villain is going to be associated with a deck of hazard cards, and you're going to shuffle all those together and then put them into the hazard deck. And each round there's going to be more and more hazards coming out onto the board, and players are going to be trying to complete those hazards by matching different icons from their hand of cards with the icons out on the hazard. But players each have their own unique abilities as well that break the game in different ways, and instead of playing a card, you can choose to use your special ability if you think that would be more beneficial. If players are able to keep the hazards at bay long enough and not take too many wounds, then the final villain will reveal themselves. And if the players are able to defeat that final villain, then they win the game. And this giveaway is going to be for the Collector's Edition Pledge, which comes with the core game, upgraded miniatures, an expansion, and all unlocked stretch goals. And to enter this giveaway, just leave a comment down below with the hashtag hero. And I know that the Umbrella Academy series is currently on Netflix. I keep seeing it show up in my newsfeed, but I haven't watched it yet. So to enter this giveaway, maybe let us know if you think that series is worth watching, or if you haven't watched it, maybe just let us know what your favorite superhero series is that you have seen. For myself, I've been thoroughly enjoying a series that I would not recommend because it's really lewd and debaucherous and probably not appropriate for most people. But if you can stomach that sort of thing, The Boys has been really entertaining. And if you choose to watch it, that's on you. I renounce any responsibility. In fact, don't watch it. Don't. Don't do it. And the next giveaway we have is for Splintered Lands, and this is a deck building game that I think has a really elegant design. Players are going to be choosing 3 different decks that they want to include in the game, then they're going to be shuffling those together and then using them as a shared deck where they're going to be creating a shared market from where they can purchase additional cards. But something that's really interesting with this game is that the way that you put your cards into your tableau is going to dictate the way that you can use those cards. Also, some cards pair better with other cards, so you might want to pair certain cards together in the different areas of your tableau. But players are essentially attacking their opponent and defending themselves, and trying to be the first to reduce their opponent's authority down to 0. But the interesting thing here is that your authority is also a resource that you're going to be spending in a sort of push your luck mechanism in order to gain new cards for your own personal deck. And I just led all of you on there because this giveaway is not actually for a pledge for the game, it's actually for a custom dice set that's being offered from the same company that is publishing this game. They wanted to offer something that they could ship out immediately, so if you're interested in a new polyhedral dice set, check out the link in the description below. Head over to the Discord, check the giveaways channel, and then click the little emoji underneath the giveaway, and that'll get you automatically entered into the giveaway, which will be drawn at the end of next week. And also don't forget, if you entered last week's giveaway, also over on the Discord to check if your name got drawn to see if you won yourself a pledge for Death by Coconuts. And that's everything I have for you this week, and even though this is Canada Day weekend, I'm not really doing a whole lot. Seems like every weekend's just been crazy busy for me, but I do recharge by doing nothing, and I just haven't done nothing in a really long time. And I don't know how much of nothing I'm going to be doing this weekend, but I really hope I can do nothing. But I'm going to try and get on that as soon as possible, so thanks so much for watching. Until next time, keep that shelf cluttered and the table full.
Oh.